Thank you, Frank. You know, there was a great article in Sports Illustrated a few years ago commemorating the supposed 2,500th anniversary of the first marathon in ancient Greece. And it starts out with the historical context of Phidippides running 25 miles from Marathon to Athens to report victory over the Persians. And when he got there, he cried out, "We have won!" And then he collapsed and died. But here's where the accounts differ, because we don't know if he ran out of goo or if his coaches didn't put out enough water stop. Then the article transitions into current-day marathons and the reasons why crazy folks like us run them. Reasons like getting in shape, remembering the death of a loved one, celebrating the lives of others, making new friends, losing weight, crossing something off a bucket list, raising money for a great cause, celebrating their own lives. I know that all of these reasons and many others are represented in this room tonight. In fact, the team and training program is unique to me in that it enables all of these great motivations. As for me, I'm joined by my wife, Martha, who's doing her 4th team and training event. And for us, we're running in memory of her mother, my mother-in-law, who died of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma about 16 years ago. We're running in honor of many blood cancer survivors whom we know, including relatives, teammates, friends, and we're running to celebrate my own journey. Back in July of 2009, I was deferred twice trying to give blood because I had a low red count. And after the second time, I went and saw my doctor on a Monday, and he ordered blood work and said he'd call me in a couple of days with results. But as I was leaving, the nurse came running after me and said, "Mr. Newsom, doc needs to see you." And that's never a good thing. In fact, he told me that my blood counts, my red, white, and platelets were all off the charts low, and he'd already made an appointment for me to see an oncologist the next morning. So that night I did what anybody would do who needs to get 100% factual information on a vitally important subject. I went to Wikipedia. Because if it's on Wikipedia, it must be true. Actually, very quickly I found the LLS website, and it was provided a wealth of information. The next day that oncologist ran some more tests, and he called me the next day with a diagnosis of hairy cell leukemia. My case was right out of the textbook, cut and dried. In 4 days, I went from trying to be a blood donor to being a blood cancer patient. According to the LLS website, hairy cell leukemia is a slow-growing form of CLL and is diagnosed in an estimated 500 to 800 cases in the U.S. each year. It was first identified in 1958, and there were no suitable treatments until 1984. Since the 1980s, there's been a progression of drugs that, when I was diagnosed, it reached about 95% rate of remission for an average of about 10 years. And in the event of a relapse, the protocol could be repeated. I was on the younger end of the typical age range, and I had a very high hairy cell count. So I entered a clinical trial at National Institute of Health right down the street here in Bethesda, Maryland. And the trial there combined the protocol drug with a drug called Rituxan, which was commonly used in the treatment of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and it was developed by LLS-funded researchers. So I was the 3rd person in this trial. Back in August of 2009, underwent 8 weeks of chemo. In fact, it was 5 years last week that I was done with that. And I was in remission at 30 days, which was great news. But the best news is now there are over 100 people in my trial, and all 100 are in remission. So 100%. In fact, my doctor is now at NIH is trying to make our treatment be the new protocol for treating HCL. So I mentioned the evolution of the treatments in detail because it's very important, I think, to understand that the tremendous strides that we have made in treating blood cancers. In 30 years, we've gone from no suitable treatment for hairy cell leukemia to a 100% remission rate. And that's something that LLS deserves a tremendous amount of credit for, and I hope that all of you take great pride in that as well. So about a year later, a family friend, Allison Harden, who's here going to run the race tomorrow, she was big into team and training down in South Florida. And she called and asked if she could use my story in her fundraising. And I was touched that she wanted to do that, and I started asking her about what this team and training was, and I got involved. So in August of 2010, a year later, I was invited to speak at the Charlotte Winter Team. They were kicking off to run the Kiowa, South Carolina Marathon in December later that year. And I was honored to be able to share my story with this amazing group of people that were going to embark on this great adventure of running a long-distance race. And I obviously was very touched that they would do something that was so meaningful for me. And I was giving them my pep talk here, and about halfway through my speech, I kind of blurted out, I had a moment of weakness, and I said, and I'm going to do it with you. And I was pretty fired up. I bounced out of that room that day, and I was driving home, and I got to a stoplight and looked in the mirror and said, man, what the heck did you just do? Because, you see, I wasn't much of a runner. I ran a 10K on a dare at age 17, and I ran a 10K at age 34 to win a bet, and I was not scheduled to run again until I was 51 years old. But anyway, that Saturday, I showed up at our team's training at 6:30. We were going to run 3 miles, and I was scared to death. I really didn't know if I could do it. But I started out running, and pretty soon one of the coaches was running next to me, and I did it. And the next week we did 4, and the next week we did 5. And pretty soon, the weekly runs became one of the highlights of my week. And 4 months, almost to the day after that kickoff, with the help of my coaches and my teammates and my family, I ran the Kilo Marathon in 4 hours and 48 minutes, which is one of the most incredible accomplishments of my life. And I've kept on running, and tomorrow's going to be my 3rd full, and I've run 17 halves all here in the last 4 years. And it's almost been like an out-of-body experience. I have no idea who it is this person I've become. And some of my friends have even accused me of being a runner, but I am quick to point out, I am not a runner. I'm a long-distance endurance athlete. So during our journey, we've met a lot of amazing people. We've met really smart doctors and researchers who are really driven and feel a real calling to find cures for blood cancer patients, and many of those are supported by you and LLS. We've met wonderfully compassionate nurses and technicians who really take seriously their treatment of patients. I've met other blood cancer patients who are far sicker than I ever was, yet have amazing outlooks on life. And we've been an inspiring group of people who get together on Tuesdays and Saturdays and run together. And that's all of you, my teammates, our staff, our mentors, our training captains, and our coaches. Today, there are 1,143,936 people in the U.S. living with blood cancer. I'll speak for my fellow patients to say thank you. You've given us the strength and the power to persevere. So tomorrow's race day. And whether you're running your first long-distance race or whether you're a marathon veteran, it's going to be a great challenge. Just remember you've got the energy of 1,143,935 people plus me running with you. Let us give you the strength and the power to persevere. I'll see you at the finish line. Good luck.